Allah, I'm from Lebanon. I head the Lebanese Telecommunication Regulatory Authority. I have few other small responsibilities that probably get me to be here a little bit. I appreciate being here. I thank Your Excellency for your kind receiving us and taking care of everybody. This is a great gathering. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I thank everyone. And as a Lebanese, I consider Kuwait always my first country. Kuwait has given a lot to Lebanon, and we appreciate it. And to each Kuwaiti, and to the Prince and everybody, thank you. Well, this is me, I guess.
No.
That's me. I had started wanting to talk about, in general, regulating the content. But on the way here on the plane and the last 24 hours, I really made major changes to my presentation, and I thank you for your indulgence ahead of time. I really believe that 20 years ago, none of us thought we would be here today. And I challenge all of us to think where we would be 20 years from today, or even 10 years from today. Look at what's going on, and I honestly believe what we're going through is no less than a total transformation, total cultural transformation, and that's what's scaring a lot of people, total political transformation, a total social transformation, and every norm that we're used to working with today, I think it's going to be different in the near future, I guess. Well, this is not the one okay, while I'm setting up the new presentation, because I guess this is not the latest that I sent this morning, my apologies. So I'm going to set it up. But meanwhile, when we look at the internet, honestly, what do we think about? We really think of some concerns that are extremely important and worry all of us at the same time. If I could get this one. Okay, we're going to set this up sooner or later, I guess. How do we get rid of this? The virus scan. Oh. I guess I'm losing a couple minutes here. Could anybody work this out so I don't ruin it? I have a habit of screwing up computers. Okay, just if we could set it up. The concerns that we have, actually, when we talk about the internet in general, it starts with personal related protection. Whether it's actual personal data, confidentiality, privacy, personal attacks, defaming some people. We also talk about, okay. We talk about intellectual property. We talk about national security. Everybody talks about it. Minor and child protection. This is extremely important. Everybody around the world must agree that minor and child protection, especially related to child pornography, is extremely important. This is content. Human protection related to actual sexual activities. There are different levels of sexual activity, regulations that could go throughout the world, but at least these are things that people talk about. Economic security related to fraud, credit card piracy. Just by the way, I was visiting one of the politicians in Lebanon, and in the 20 minutes that I was meeting with him, I received 15 messages from my credit card company saying that somebody withdrew 28,000 euro on my credit cards. So at least I really care that things should be taken care of, and we need to protect our I guess I'm not having good luck with this, am I? It's not working. Well, I'm going to have to improvise a little bit while it's being worked. At the next page here, I have references that I've used for some of my presentation. Next one, the internet. We all know that it connects over 2 billion people. It really impacts almost everybody in the globe. Almost everybody. You know, as we said earlier, nobody imagined where we would be today 20 years ago. And its development course, to some extent, has been inevitable. Is it, or has it, or did we think this way? The fact is today, if we do not act today, it's going to be a big problem. It depends on us, all of us as users, to do it, not only as citizens, but as governments, as institutes, as civil society, everybody. We really need to do it. And our action today will be defined by the users, by all of us. And it's time really to act. Some government official at one point referred to the fact that we all remember situations when authorities cut the internet in some countries just because they wished to, or the law authorized it, and people didn't think it would happen, but you know what? It happened. It's going to happen tomorrow, and it will happen in the future. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Internet Governance Forum. Our friend Rod had talked about the ICANN. The Internet Governance Forum, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is a multi-stakeholder forum that is established by the WSIS, the World Summit on the Information Society in 2006. It is not meant to be dealt with through the same processes as the United Nations processes. It is the leading global multi-stakeholder forum on public policy related to internet governance. A governance model that they use is built on soft governance, on soft power. It contains, or it has various stakeholder groups as equals. They do not make decisions, and it's not that they negotiate, by the way. They are not a decision-making authority. They have no power of redistribution. They have basically a power of recognition of the issues, working on the issues, and trying to make recommendations. The IGF mandate, I'm going to try to go through it as quickly as possible, and that is to discuss public policy issues related to the key elements of internet governance, facilitate the exchange of information and best practices, even by reaching to the academics and the industry people, identify emerging issues, bring them to the attention of the relevant bodies and society, contribute to the capacity building of the internet governance, discuss the issues relating to the critical internet resources, and help find solutions. The IGF experience is summarized by 3 major outcomes, and I really believe we should all be aware of them. One, that multi-stakeholder cooperation is a prerequisite to tackle the problems. The internet is the sum of all users. It is not only part of the user community, it's everybody. We should be able to discuss internet governance issues globally, but we really have to act locally. Every society has its own issues, its own environment, and that's what we need to deal with. There is no one size fits all for the solutions, and countries have to find their own solutions corresponding to their own situation. Talking now a little bit about content regulation. What's content regulation? First of all, what is regulation? It is the fact that you do something to impact and influence the discretion of a person or a group or a society. That's what regulation really is. You do something to impact or influence their decision. And you usually try to impart on them, to have a good behavior and discourage a bad behavior. That's what regulation should be about anyway. So in the cyberspace, content encompasses everything that we deal with, from email to video to music to documents to stories to education, health. Simply, what we've seen today is a tip of the iceberg. The encompassing scope of content brings the difficulty. Everything that we do today away from the internet is becoming a part of what the internet does, so everything that we do today will become a part of the internet content. The issue is not only harmful content, as some people would like to define it. It talks about intellectual property. Intellectual property means your ideas and your productions and your product have values, and you need to protect them. You need to be rewarded for them. Copyrights, piracy. It is not only content, it's potentially impacting everyone. It is social, cultural, political, economic, and governance norms transformation. I honestly believe that 15, 20 years from now, the form of governments that we all have anywhere around the world would be different. There are three approaches of dealing with content. One of them is from the human rights point of view. I have freedom of expression and right to communicate. However, the government have a different way of looking at it. They look at it as legislating content and controlling it. Technology, the technologists on the other side, they see it as a tool for content control. Content may consist of three types. One is a content where globally there is a consensus regarding its control, like child pornography online. Actually, child pornography, period. Second is a content that may be sensitive for particular countries, region, or ethnic groups due to their particular religious or cultural values, and content which consists of politically and ideologically sensitive material. There are arguments for regulating internet and internet content and not doing it. The arguments for it is that they're saying, okay, this is just another communications network like TV and radio and telecom, so why don't we just regulate it? Or saying a large range of problematic content on the internet. There is a large part of that, like illegal, harmful, offensive material. So really, we should really get in and regulate it. Also, the criminal activities on the internet are similar to the criminal activities that are off the internet. So we really need to look at it. And also, they're saying that it has users from countries all over the world, over 2 billion today, and probably 3 billion in about 3 years. So it really touches a lot of people, and we really need to make sure that we protect, between parentheses, the people. There are people who are against regulating content. They're saying, listen, it was created as a totally different kind of network and should be a space free of control. Do not strangle it. If we had strangled it 15, 20 years ago, we wouldn't be today where we are. We would not be where we are today. They also say that it's a global network that cannot simply be regulated. How are you going to regulate it? It's technically complex, evolving network that cannot be regulated. It's getting a lot of input, a lot of output, a lot of material, a lot of technology, a lot of users. How can you do it? And any form of regulation is flawed anyway, so why do you do it? Because the internet is a global medium with no central control, it is not possible to monitor and remove objectionable content completely. We've got to realize this. We have no control of how it is being developed and deployed anywhere in the world. Various governments that are concerned about the harm are taking certain steps to regulate across the internet. You know, even the United States, I tell you, they are taking steps to regulate the internet. Actually, they have one of the strongest regulatory systems, even though if it's not in the FCC or done by the FCC, it's based on the general laws that they have. Every time they try to do something, sometimes they get pushed by the people, but they do. Now, internet control, content control and regulatory policy could be grouped into 4 categories. 1, government policies that encourage internet industry self-regulation and user voluntary use of filtering and blocking technologies. Examples, UK. Example, Canada and many Western European countries. There are countries like Australia and the US where they have criminal law penalties, fine or jail terms applicable to content providers who make content unsuitable for minors, for example. You have government-mandated blocking of access to unsuitable contents for adults, like China, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, and UAE. And you have government that have complete prohibition. I'm not going to mention countries. I'll take quickly the states, for example. They are regulated by the FCC. They basically respect the First Amendment and the free of speech principle. But this doesn't mean, however, that there is no internet regulation. It is the country with the most sophisticated internet regulations. The internet can be captured and properly addressed, and it is supported by a complex set of legally binding and privately mediated mechanisms where technical filtering plays a minor role. Keep in mind that the first wave of regulatory actions came in response to the profusion of sexually explicit material on the internet with easy reach of minors. There were legislative attempts at creating a mandatory system of content controls that have failed to produce a comprehensive solution. Again, they have national security concerns that have spurred on efforts to expand surveillance of digital communications and fueled proposals for making internet communication more traceable. They do it. They did it a lot more after the disaster of 2001. Gambling, cybersecurity, and dangers to children who frequent social network sites are important ongoing debates. There will continue to be debates. And public dialogue, legislative debate, and judicial review have produced different filtering strategy. I'm not going to continue on this one. France continues to promote freedom of the press. They also have their own way of regulating the content. Singapore engages in minimal internet filtering, blocks only a small set of pornographic websites as a symbol of disapproval of their content. However, it employs a combination of licensing control and legal pressures to regulate internet access and to limit the presence of objectionable content. China, we all know about China, how tough it is to do business or to do work on the internet or to access the internet, even though they've been releasing it in some areas. At one point, all users had to register with the police, by the way. We have other countries that recommended a voluntary code of conduct on the internet or suggested using labeling and filtering along the lines of platform of internet content selection. And some countries have toyed with the idea to censor the internet by using proxy servers as filters or give it to the police. The industry, all the industries are converging. Media, information technologies, communications technologies, and others. The regulatory paradigm sometimes comes from the media. Light-handed censorship laws are being passed around the world. No one universal model for internet content regulation exists, and no one will exist to rule the situation. It is going to be a local situation. However, regulations are driven by society culture more than by technology or law, and the power and spread of the internet are precisely reason for regulating it, maybe. 3 things and I finish. We need to ensure light-handed regulations. Do not stifle the internet or progress. Developments are influencing social and political systems globally. Open up for the innovation and spread of awareness. Decentralization of power and control is underway. governance should also be decentralized and should be more multi-stakeholder. I end with what I started. The social, political, and cultural transformation is happening, whether we like it or not. It's happening around us. Let's define it. Let's be a part of its definition. Let's adjust and adapt. And thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Habara, for this actually exceptional presentation.
Thank
You
you.
did us a wonderful overview.